And our first item is to adopt the meeting minutes from our May meeting. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yay.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, so meeting minutes from our May meetings are approved. And the next item is to approve our proposed agenda for today's meeting. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? And easier, any opposed? Okay, so today's agenda is approved. Next slide, please, Elisa. Okay, so we're going to actually start with introductions, and this is for the benefit of new members, but really all members. So I'm going to, I'll get us started, and then I'm just going to read down the list. I know in Zoom, like sometimes the order is different for different people, so I'm just going to call it, and it's really going to just be based on your first name. And so for the introduction, just name, just briefly, say your name, kind of what kind of member you are, community member, staff member, student member. You can flag whether you're a new member or an existing member, and then just sort of like a 30-second spiel of like why you wanted to join the Racial Equity Committee and what you hope to get out of it. So I will go first. My name's Keisha Koa. I'm the chair of the Racial Equity Committee, and I am a community member, and I have two sons who are Frederick County students at Urbana High School. And so I definitely had a personal motivation for wanting to get involved just based on various experiences I've had with my children and just like, children in my community. I just saw the real potential value of a committee such as this to make actionable change in our schools. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Amelia. If you're speaking, you're on mute. Are you there?
So Amelia's from FCPS Communications,
Oh.
but she's here. I know she's here because she's recording us.
I'm sorry. It's been a long. Thank you, Lisa.
It's okay.
Sorry,
but
Angela.
We know she's here and she has a brand new baby. Yay, Amelia.
Sorry, Angela, who I know is a student member, so I won't do that again. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Angela. I'm a student member. I've been an existing member. I'm going to be a senior this upcoming school year at Brunswick High School. And I joined the Racial Equity Committee because there are a lot of situations, Brunswick is a rural school. There are a lot of situations that presented themselves that I thought that joining the committee would be necessary to try to improve those situations. And additionally, existing members probably remember the policy change presentation and project that students from my school were doing. And that was part of the reason I joined, to continue that mission.
Thank you. Anusha.
Hi, my name is Anusha. I'm a student member from TJ High School, and I've joined because as a student of color myself, I've definitely seen inequities myself, and I've noticed it amongst my student and other students around me. And so I thought by joining, not only would I help make an impact to help my other students, but also keep faculty accountable, because I've also seen some things go down, and it's kind of unfortunate as a kid that you kind of have to grow up with that. So I'm hoping that I can kind of help other kids as well, because, I'm kind of trying to help create a safer environment for everybody. Oh, was there another question after that?
No, sorry. I think it was me. I was breaking up, so I didn't know you were done. Camille?
Hi, I'm Camille Bell. I am a staff member of the principal of Frederick Classical Charter School. I am a new member of the committee. I joined this committee particularly because of my own experiences in Frederick County. I felt like because of my background, my experiences in urban education, that I could bring some value and diversity to Frederick County. I joined the recruitment and retention subcommittee, and I'm really excited about the work that we are doing. So I'm just excited to help.
Thank you. Sharice.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sharice Diggins. I am a community member. I live in Frederick County, and I have one son that is in the Frederick County school system. And part of the reason I joined is just to be a part of the conversation to effect some positive change. I've had some inequities as it relates to my youngest son, and just, again, want to be a part of the conversation and move things forward.
Thank you. Constance.
Hi, I'm Constance. I'm a community member and I'm a new member. I have 3 children, 2 who graduated out of FCPS and 1 who's a senior this year. And I wanted to join because I'm passionate about helping the community, helping others, particularly in the area of diversity and equities. Coming from an urban environment myself, New York City girl, I've been exposed to inequities. Professionally, I see inequities in FCPS that I would like to hope that this committee could help address and make changes towards the students that I support and the families that I support and the community.
Thank you. David.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Bass. I serve on the Board of Education. I use he, him, his pronouns. And I really wanted to serve on the Racial Equity Committee because of my deep commitment to racial justice. I think that I saw in some of my own education the power of reading, I guess, authors of diverse backgrounds. I think about how powerful it was for me to read Toni Morrison and James Baldwin in high school. I think I really personally benefited from my Africana Studies classes in college, and in my career, I hope that, and I think and hope that I've advanced some diversity initiatives in higher education. So I always try to bring that to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dawn Lynch, and I'm here taking notes and attendance right now. And I've been with the Racial Equity Committee, Racial Equity Committee since the very beginning. And what led me to join the committee is I am an educator. I'm an educator here with FCPS, and I work with English learners. And I felt the need to have be a part of a group, a diverse group that looked at people who have not been seen, and to hear different perspectives and different voices, and to make positive change when it comes to matters of race and equity. So I felt compelled to apply and be a part of this group. And I'm really excited, especially with our new members. So welcome.
Thank you. Elisa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elisa Andrade, and I am a mom of a 5th grader and a 2nd grader at Orchard Grove Elementary. And my whole purpose for joining the Racial Equity Committee was to ensure that my students don't experience racism within their education in our schools, and to also ensure that other students of color are not the recipients of any type of racism in their schools. So I look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you. Heather.
Hi, my name is Heather. I am an FCPS teacher. My boys went through FCPS, but they are now graduated and adults. I'm a new member. And I became a member, I didn't even really know this committee existed. So when I saw, the cry for people to join, I jumped right on, because now more than ever, we need committees like this. And I just thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to be part of the change that is so needed in Frederick County and, you know, in our country as a whole. So I'm very honored to be a part of this committee and look forward to working with you all.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Bingman, and I work in Frederick County Public Schools, and I have 2 children that have graduated from Frederick County Public Schools, and then 2 that are still students in the school system. And I have a passion for wanting to make sure that all students feel comfortable and supported and are appropriate. They feel like they can reach their potential and that we provide them every opportunity. And so I was excited to be selected to be part of this committee because I believe in the work. I believe in the members that are a part of this. And I think that everybody has been able to really kind of come together and to really talk about some of the struggles that our students face and the working towards trying to resolve those to make sure that we provide them with a learning environment where they can all feel successful and to truly reach their potential. So welcome to the new members.
Thank you. Keith?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Keith Harris. I'm also an FCPS employee, Executive Director of Accelerating Achievement and Equity, appointed to the committee by the superintendent. But nonetheless, this committee is part of my life's work and life's passion. And it also aligns with the work that I do every single day. And so I hope to continue to provide a supportive role and a bridge between leadership in FCPS and some of the work that's being done, and then also to help support some of the work that needs to continue to be done based on some of the recommendations of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Lola?
Yes, hi, good evening. I'm Lola Hashoina J, and I joined this committee because I'm a mom. I have 3 daughters who are students in the FCPS schools in elementary school and a rising middle schooler. And I'm a new member. And I joined for many of the reasons that have already been expressing. I am very passionate about building inclusive communities where differences among people are celebrated and not, made to be the subject of discriminatory practices. So I am here to support this committee's efforts to dismantle racism, but also to promote more inclusivity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Hi, good evening. I'm Mark Grisbacki, community member. I've been a part of the committee since it became about a couple years ago, I guess it is now. I have a daughter who graduated Linganore High School this year out of the Frederick school system. I'm part of the recruitment and retention committee with fabulous people. A lot of what everybody said about being compelled, passionate about this work, trying to move the conversation forward and doing good. All the same reasons why I joined a while back. Welcome to the new members, and I really do look forward to seeing you in person in the boardroom. I think that earlier, when we first started and we were meeting in person, that room has a lot of energy, and I look forward to getting back there and continuing this work in that mode.
Thank you. Mason?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mason. I'm a student member and an incoming senior at Urbana High School. I joined the Racial Equity Committee to solve important issues in my school and community that I've seen over the years. Also, having lived in a lot of states and a lot of different kinds of communities, like demographically, I've seen a lot of things continuously that I really think need to be changed. Recently, I've further developed this passion for creating change, working as a student advocate and lobbyist for the YMCA USA legislative team, where I learned how to work with people of all viewpoints and ages to solve issues like food deserts, educational inequality with things like less access to daycare or preschool, and lack of access to life-changing social programs for kids that live in vulnerable communities, with real lobbying and legislation in Congress, such as the American Rescue Plan. So I'm really looking forward to solving racial inequity with this committee, specifically in FCPS. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Ruben?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm a new member, community member. My name is Ruben Rosario. I am, well, I have two sons, both of which are in Frederick County Public Schools. One is in middle school, one is in elementary school. My wife is an elementary school teacher, as you can tell from my background. That's not my choice. She just put it up there, that that's what you're going to use. And I'm a police officer. I've been a police officer for 16 and a half years. I'm now captain of our major crimes division, which heads up a lot of, serious cases. And I went to Howard Law School before that. So I'm an attorney, and I just think I'm an advocate. And like a lot of people said, I have a passion for for all forms of justice. And I think racial inequity is one of the ugliest forms that exists. It's too prevalent. I see it everywhere. And just thankful to be part of a committee that's trying to make it better for our students.
Thank you. Sabrina.
Good evening. I am the Ombuds with Frederick County Public Schools, and the Office of the Ombuds helps parents, students, staff, or community members to navigate concerns or issues and look for collaborative options for resolutions. So I am a liaison to the board also. So this completely aligns with the work that I do daily. And I'm excited to be a part and honored to be a part of this committee to help look at options for change to bring about a better tomorrow. So thank you I'm glad to meet all the new members, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Sarah.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Gonzalez. I'm a community member and have a child in second grade in Frederick County Schools. I'm an existing member as well. I've been really drawn to this because it aligns a lot with the work that I do professionally. I've been doing economic justice work and anti-gender-based violence work for a very long time. And as you can imagine, addressing racial inequity is inseparable from that work. And to be able to address that not only at the systems level that I do in my professional job, but to do that locally in the community is really meaningful to me, to be able to kind of bring that knowledge and that trauma-informed lens to make sure that all of the young people in our schools are, positioned to be successful and lead happy, fulfilling lives.
Thank you. Serena.
Hi, everyone. My name is Serena. I'm an existing member, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a recent graduate of Frederick High School, graduated in 2019. And so as a recent graduate, I experienced and witnessed some of the inequities that, students back then and students now are experiencing. And so those are things that I really want to address. And this committee really fulfills a lot of my passions and my driving force, in my personal, educational, and career life. So I'm really happy to be here, and welcome to the new members, and good to see everyone.
Thank you. And Tia.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tia Dowdell, and I am a community member, also an existing member of this committee. I think I echo the sentiment of many others here. I have a daughter that is going into 5th grade, and, when she started, I was new to Frederick County. I just didn't really have a sense of, what the situation was with the school district here, but just in my experience, I just noticed that there needed to be some changes. So when I learned about this committee, I was very motivated to join and make a difference, not just for her, but hopefully for all students in Frederick County who are experiencing some of the injustices.
Thank you. And I'm looking, I don't think I forgot anyone, but if I did, please speak now. Okay. And Elisa, can you reshare your screen, please? Actually doing that, I just want to reiterate what everyone else said. We're really excited for all our new members, and just as you guys know, we'll talk about later, we recently did our year-end report to the Board of Education. We're just really excited to kind of continue the work that we've been doing and having all these great new perspectives to help inform the work we do over the next year. So welcome. Okay, so next we're going to read public comments. And could you go to the next slide, please, Elisa? Okay, Due to the health situation that our community is currently experiencing, the July 28th, 2021 Racial Equity Committee meeting will take place via teleconference. Should anyone wish to provide public comment, please send an email that includes your full name to fcpsracialequity@fcps.org prior to the start of the meeting. The Racial Equity Committee welcomes and encourages public comment. Public comments will be read for up to 30 minutes. However, all public comment, whether read or not, will be posted on board docs within 24 hours of the meeting. Please note that public comment is for statements and questions will be directed to the appropriate staff for response. We have 3 public comments today that I'm going to read. Okay. The first one says, I would like to know if materials to be used for our students once the committee has made its recommendation will be provided prior to them being introduced into our schools. I believe that using any form of references like critical race theory or terms like systematic racism, implied bias, and the likes will do nothing more than confuse younger children as well as cause further division among races rather than bringing them together. There must be a better way than using philosophies that divide. There's already enough incidents that have shown up in the news in the last few months that are evidence of critical race theory causing further division. Please, please move very slowly and very cautiously with this curriculum. Thank you, Jean Morano, concerned grandparent. The next one is, please keep divisive and destructive ideologies out of our schools. We parents don't want it and our kids will be worse for it. Teach children fundamental academics and how to think for themselves. The most recent example of this creeping into FCPS curriculum is the Piecing Me Together reading material proposed for review this July. Virtually every page is a demonstration of this as each person is defined by the color of their skin. For example, quote, but girls like me with cold skin and hula hoop hips have to take opportunities every chance we get. Pushing this mentality disadvantages minority kids in a county where they can demonstrably reach every level of success. The kind of ideology also shames white children that have legitimately done nothing wrong. I want to send my children back this fall. It isn't worth it if they will be taught that their friends and family should be defined by the color of their skin rather than who they are as a person. Please make equality the standard for FCPS and not equity. My thoughts and prayers are with you, Stephen Fredrickson. And the last one, I'm submitting some questions to the Racial Equity Committee, which I hope you will answer this evening during the teleconference meeting at 6 p.m. And just to clarify, I'm reading the questions as public comment, but we don't answer questions during the meeting. What is your committee's specific definition of equity? What is your committee's opinion about equity versus equality? Would your committee agree to replace equity with equality? If not, why not? Thanks so much, Patrice L. Oliver. Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? I'm going to turn it over to David.
Hi, everyone. There was a few things that I wanted to share with you. First, at our next policy committee meeting, which is August 18th at 11 a.m. In the boardroom, there's 2 policies that we're going to look at that have recommendations that came from the Racial Equity Committee. So policy 403 on student discipline. I spoke this week with Jamie Cannon, who is a staff member who helps serve on or helps the policy committee. She met with Dana Falls, the director of student services, to discuss some possible changes on policy 403. Some of the recommendations that we brought forward on this included that we should really have language around restorative practices reflected within the student discipline policy. Policy 509 is also going to come to the policy committee meeting on August 18th. Jamie Cannon let me know that she met with Kevin Kendrow, supervisor of athletics and extracurricular activities, to discuss some of our recommendations here, which I would summarize as clarifying some of the language around co-curricular activities, clarifying some language around student conduct, and ensuring that there's an equal access section of this policy, and making sure that it connects with the board's policy 444, the board's equity policy. So those are two policies we're going to be looking at in August, with recommendations from our committee. And the public, including everyone right on the Racial Equity Committee, is if you're able, you are welcome to come for public comment that day, August 18th, 11 a.m. And if you've served on one of the subcommittees that brought forward one of these, I mean, actually, I serve on the one that brought forward policy 403, but you're welcome to reach out if you have more information that you'd like me to kind of keep front of mind. A few other things to share. Yeah, I mean, many of you may have seen that Dr. Albin announced today the decision that all students and staff will be required to wear masks in the school buildings. And I think this is the prudent decision, considering the significant increase in COVID positivity rate in Frederick County. 2.9% in the last couple of days is the number that I saw. So from a public health perspective, I'm certainly supportive of this decision. And I'm also supportive because I really think it gives us the best opportunity to ensure that kids are in the classroom 5 days a week, and which is essential for learning, for social development, for schooling. Third thing I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, right? FCPS is taking feedback regarding federal COVID funds, referred to as the ESSER funds. So if you go onto the FCPS website, under news and info, you'll be able to see a link there to give feedback. We've applied for a variety of projects or for funding for a variety of projects addressing unfinished learning, supporting safe and healthy students, focusing on staff, focusing on community, focusing on technology. And so before August 3rd, I would invite and encourage everyone to take a look at that and give feedback. Again, that's under news and info on the FCPS website. And finally, just to end, some sad news that many of you may have seen. Reverend James Sherman Mason passed away last Sunday, and Reverend Mason is Jay Mason's father. So my thoughts and prayers are with Jay and his family. So thank you, everybody.
Next slide, please.
Keisha, I just had two clarifying questions for David. David,
Sure.
I know you said that the policy committee meeting is August 18th, and you said at 11 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said with public comment, if any of our subcommittees who propose these policy changes, if any of the subcommittees wanted to submit public comment, how would they do so? Is the policy committee accepting public comment in person now, or would they be submitting to you electronically public comment?
Public comment is in person. So yeah, to submit public comment, it would be to come to the meeting in person. If there is information that was discussed at the subcommittee that folks want me to keep in mind as a member of the policy committee, I reach out. I want to, right? I don't serve on all the subcommittees. And so I don't know, I want to be sure that while I have the summary, right, the summary sheet that we've submitted, I just want to make sure that I have the heart of the discussion, front of mind.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome. Thank you. Were there other questions?
Yeah. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
So So as we move through our meetings, especially our new members, since this is your first committee meeting as a whole, we use Glenn Singleton's Courageous Conversations About Race protocol for having courageous conversations. And for those four pieces of the protocol are making sure that we stay engaged, speak your truth, expect to experience discomfort because talking about race is uncomfortable, and we don't move to make change until we're uncomfortable. And the final protocol that we keep in mind as we begin each of our meetings is to expect and accept non-closure. Oftentimes when we talk about race, we don't come up with a solution right away. It takes many discussions to come up with a solution or recommendations. So be okay sometimes with not having closure. And then finally, also recognizing that we all come to the table from different points within the compass. So some of us, when we respond to something that's going on within our community or something that we're discussing during our meetings, some of us may respond from a moral sense, having a strong sense of right or wrong. Some of us might enter a conversation straight from the intellectual point of view. Give me the data. I want the numbers. I need to know the data to make the decision. Some of us might have a very strong emotional response initially, might be something that has impacted us personally, and we respond with emotion. And some of us might respond with quick action, wanting to do something about it right away and see the action now. So just recognizing that everyone enters these conversations about race differently is something that we always keep in mind as we move through our meetings.
I was on mute. Thank you. I'll start kind of with our executive subcommittee updates, but Elisa and Dawn, please interject if I forget anything or misrepresent anything that we spoke about. As a reminder, during the June 26th Board of Education meeting, we gave our annual report. And so if you haven't had a chance to, I highly recommend either watching that portion of the meeting or at least looking at the slide deck, because I think it gives a really nice summary of all the work we've done over the past year and a half and just sort of our high level goals for the next year. So I encourage people to, engage with that if there's any questions, especially for new members but any members, we're happy to answer any questions you might have, but highly recommend that. We did want to talk about annual elections a little bit. We kind of had a weird schedule and stuff with COVID. So the plan right now is that there'll be elections for the new executive board, kind of the last meeting. So it'd be May or June meeting of next year to select new exec board members. And then our member as members are leaving, and we're getting new members. I think for our community members and staff members, we have a January date on the bylaws. But for student members, we want to kind of reset that to sort of go with the school year too, especially so that if there's individuals who are going to be incoming seniors, they have the ability to serve for a full year. And so the kind of student member election will be on a similar time frame as the board election. So we just wanted to communicate that. Just with COVID, it just kind of has thrown off the timing of everything. And then there's been a lot of I think for our committee, it's really important to get the community perspective. And so I know some articles that have been in the Frederick News Post have been shared with committee members. We've had student groups and other community groups come and represent us, but we want to make sure we kind of keep a pulse on current events that are happening in the community. And I think, and Elisa, correct me if I'm wrong, are we looking for sort of an individual within the committee to sort of volunteer for those positions? Someone who would be willing to kind of look at the news and just get a pulse of what's going on in the community and share that with share those updates with the whole committee. And then those are kind of areas and topics that we'd be able to talk about both the subcommittees as they're relevant, but also at future full committee meetings. So I'm going to pause there to first see if Elisa or Dawn have anything to add and then open it up for any questions that there may be.
Yep, Keisha, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we were looking for someone, a volunteer within our current committee, to kind of keep a pulse on, like you said, the Frederick News Post. Just like how we sent out a few articles about a month ago that related to race and equity within our community. We're looking for someone to do that, and even just send the whole committee articles periodically, keep us up to date on everything that's going on, so that then that can be disseminated to the whole committee, and then we can get to work on trying to discuss and further research those issues.
And I think we also talked about the community liaison position, looking at opportunities for celebrations also that were happening throughout the community, not just the written article, but other activities and events that are happening throughout the Frederick County.
That may be relevant, yeah. So yeah, if there's anyone who wants to volunteer right now, feel free to. If you want to think about it and email us after the meeting as well, that's okay. But we think we really want to make sure that we're kind of keeping a pulse of what's going on and incorporating sort of relevant events into the work we do. So it's a really important position. So are there any questions?
This is totally how high school and middle school teachers feel when they teach their Zoom classes.
I can imagine.
Are there any questions? Students, are you there?
Well, the life of a teacher. All right, next slide, please, Elisa. Okay, now we're going to do our subcommittee updates. And starting with a representative from the Hiring, Recruitment, Retention, and Professional Development Subcommittee.
Hi, everyone. This is Sarah. I can go ahead and represent our group. I'm just realizing how incredibly long the name of our subcommittee is, and it doesn't lend itself to a good acronym. We'll have to think about that. It's certainly a mouthful. We had a couple of meetings since we last met as a whole group. We wanted to make sure we were welcoming our new subcommittee members. We're very excited about the energy that they're bringing and the perspectives that they're able to help add to our discussions as well. So we reviewed some of the initial documents that we had been working on, the data that had been previously collected and were completed to date to give them a sense of where we are and where we hope to be going. We are still continuing to analyze and review some of the data we received from central office in April, and a lot of that data centered around promotions as well as details on the race equity trainings that have been going on in Frederick County for the last couple of years to give us a better perspective as to what they look like, what those trainings entail. We still have some more questions that we're trying to figure out within the community that we need to push forward. Along those lines, we also want to make sure, because we really do have a large scope in terms of what we're trying to do, from hiring to retention to promotion and training and professional development, we're going to really focus in on what we need to prioritize and as first steps for us to move forward. Along those lines, we also were discussing obstacles to hiring and retraining staff and thinking about how we can maybe center that first. And we've been exploring some HR practices a little more deeply to see how those are being implemented. You can go to the next slide. Thanks. The subcommittee reviewed the discussions that the board had on policy 300 in the June meeting. We had no additional revisions suggested at this time, and we're spending some of our attention on the associated regulation to see how that policy is actually implemented. And we could go to the next one. And so for our next steps, we're going to try to connect with some HR representatives to better understand how those regulations are actually implemented and what that looks like in practice. We still are looking for data on retention rates for BIPOC staff because we don't have a good sense of whether people are leaving or whether they're staying and moving on. And then again, as I mentioned, reviewing the Regulation 301 to make sure that the implementation and the spirit behind that policy actually makes sense and how it's done in practice. So we'll be doing some more work on that. Anyone on the committee have anything else to add? They can jump in now. But thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah. And are there any questions? Alrighty, next slide. The Extracurricular Activities Subcommittee. We have a representative from that committee.
I'm just waiting to see if Serena or Sabrina want to jump in real quick. Okay. So we had a great discussion about policy 509, which was one of the policies that David previously mentioned that we had submitted to him to then have the policy committee go ahead and review. So we're excited to learn that you all are reviewing it this upcoming month. We also had some a really lengthy discussion. I'm skipping down all the way to the bottom about the pre-game sportsmanship message and the way that it's worded. So I learned, since my kids aren't old enough to play sports in FCPS yet, that there's a message that's stated before every game starts. And we want to really make sure that message is really including everyone that would be in the audience and basically all of our students and all of our parents and caregivers and anyone that might be at a game. So we're going to look into that a little bit further, and we're going to continue discussing possible changes that we're hoping that FCPS could maybe make to that pregame sportsmanship message. We also discussed, now going back up to the third bullet, we also discussed having a possible public comment ready for the meeting that David was discussing for the policy committee meeting, as well as a public comment from the Board of Education meeting, upcoming Board of Education meeting on policy 509. Whoops, I'm turning the wrong computer. And then as far as our next steps, we want to dive a little bit into the National Honor Society regulation and the school clubs regulations, and take a look at the policies that those are derived from, and kind of look at them from an equity standpoint, and taking a look at things basically outside of FCPS sports, and start looking at clubs and other organizations. Oops. Does anyone have any questions? All right, Keisha, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Today's going to be a short meeting. In terms of action items for next month's meeting, our next committee meeting is, can you remind me of the date? Because I know we had to reschedule it. I know it's September, but I can't remember the exact day. Elisa or Dawn, do you guys know that off the top of your head?
Give me 1 second.
And then really quickly, Keisha, while Dawn is looking for that date, I did want to just take a quick moment to apologize for the typo in my previous email today. Our meetings are typically 2 hours, especially for new members. So if you can just keep in mind to kind of block off on your calendar the 2 hours from 6 to 8 p.m.
Thank you, Mason. And that does sound right. September 29th. It was our normal date is a Jewish holiday, so we had to reschedule. So our next meeting will be September 29th. We'll send out an email just, reminding folks when we need subcommittee slides for that meeting to make sure that they're included. So we do encourage, again, for the new committee members, we typically meet as a full committee like every other month. If there's a need for us to meet more frequently, we can. But with the hope that like in the off month and more frequently, as is often necessarily, that subcommittees are meeting so that they can do that work in the interim and then report out at our next meeting. And so we will send the date that we need slides for. And then just as a reminder, the next Board of Education meeting is on August 18th.
And Keisha, if it's okay with you, can we make slides due September 13th? Because that then gives us time to take a look at them before we send them to the board.
Yeah,
for posting for board docs. Thanks.
And I apologize, I didn't catch this sooner. There'll be 2 Board of Ed meetings in August. So August 4th and August 18th.
Okay.
And obviously folks are welcome and encouraged to attend both. It's policy committee that is only on the 18th.
Elisa, what did you say about when you wanted slides due? You wanted them, you recommended September
13th.
13th?
So again, everyone within your subcommittees, you are again more than welcome to submit public comment for the Board of Education meetings. We, again, with the slides, so what I'll aim to do, just so that everyone knows as a whole committee, I'll aim to get the slides to everyone by this coming Friday. And then so that all the subcommittees have up until September 13th to meet, work on your subcommittee work, and then go ahead and use the slides as your guide to just go ahead and enter your information about what you all worked on and discussed during that time.
Okay, are there any questions or comments?
I believe Mason has his hand raised. Go ahead, Mason.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wasn't sure if I had to raise it or not. Since I'm a new member, I just had a question. How do we go about like talking to our subcommittee and like meeting with them? Like who would we communicate with for that to make sure that we like get stuff done?
I'm blanking on what exact committee you're on, but there's like a sort of like lead for each subcommittee, and they should be reaching out to you to schedule a meeting. I can look offline afterwards and just make sure to connect you with that person to make sure that you're looped into conversations and meetings.
Okay, thank you. I know I'm on the school climate and discipline data subcommittee, but I just wasn't sure who the lead was for that one.
Okay, can someone from that committee answer that question?
So we haven't met since you joined the Racial Equity Committee, but we will reach out, and yeah, looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So, and then really quickly, Keisha, just for the new members, only because this was something that I remember I struggled with at the beginning, is that we typically meet, there's an every other month. So we meet as a whole group this month, and then next month would typically be the month that you have to work with your subcommittee. Then we meet as a whole group the following month to share the work. So that's typically how we roll. But yeah, so you kind of get the kind of process that we do. That's it. I'm done with my questions.
All right, if that's it, then I think we can adjourn the meeting.
We have one more thing. I think so. I think we were going to talk about our future meetings. I know we had set the dates for our future meetings, but there was discussion on whether we wanted to remain virtual with our meetings, or would we at some point be meeting face to face. And I know probably eventually the board may say that all board committees will be having face-to-face meetings, but we do have something the end of September. And as of right now, there hasn't been discussion on whether meetings will remain virtual or face-to-face. So it was something we thought we should talk about with our members here to gauge how they're feeling, what their thoughts are about how we meet. Anusha?
Yeah, are you guys taking comment on like how we should meet?
Yes, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because now with like the variants going on of like the coronavirus, unfortunately, and the fact that now Dr. Albin has asked us to wear face coverings in school now, I feel like for our next meeting, just at least until, because that's September, so I think by then we should have like from the Maryland Department of Health and even the county health department, we should have like a little bit more of like statistics and stuff on how like this is growing in the county. And I feel like after September, since that's like when school is starting and like when people are really getting back into like like sports and everything like that, we'll get like a better gauge. So that might be a better time afterwards to start going in person if it's approved, or like if we don't have to, God forbid if anything happens, like we have to like go back in virtual or anything like that. Cross fingers, nothing like that happens. But I feel like for now we should stay virtual in order to make sure that everything is completely safe before we head back in person.
I think Mark has raised his hand.
Yeah, thank you. I brought this up earlier that I'm excited to get back to meet in person, but I'm not in a rush to. So, I mean, it's the same thing. As I see where I work too, we're kind of pulling back, right? And we're starting to wear masks and things like that again. If you were to go in person in the next month or two, I probably would not be there, but I would certainly call in. So yeah, it's something that I'm excited to do when the time is right. I'm looking for that opportunity, but it's not something that I'm comfortable rushing into, so, for what it's worth.
I think I see Tia's hand.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to add my comments here. Unfortunately, we've seen our new positive cases going in the wrong direction here lately. So that's my main concern. We are quadruple where we were a month ago. So where will we be in September? I do think that it makes sense for us to come back at that time and reassess.
And Constance?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it just makes me feel more comfortable if we were to reassess when we get more information, since we are going back to school now with masks on. It just doesn't make sense to me, nor would I feel terribly comfortable with the cases continuing to rise to meet as a group. It wouldn't make too much sense. So I'd rather wait until we have more information as well before we meet together in person.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. And I feel like that's a consensus. It's like with COVID, everything's just so fast changing. So I feel like when we put together these slides, it was a much more, it was going in a much more positive, in a good way, direction than like positive cases. So, but this has been helpful to get this feedback. And I do think it makes sense to reassess things at our next meeting. Okay, and I think there was like one more agenda item that was on the agenda, but we didn't have a slide for, so we can't. So, sorry, Lola, you can go first. I see your hands raised.
I had a quick question about the public comment. I guess throughout the pandemic, was it always in person, or was there a virtual option? At the height of the pandemic, I mean,
For the Board of Education.
Yes.
It was, and David could probably speak better, but I believe it was virtual for a while and then it transitioned, but I'm going to turn that over to David to make sure I don't misrepresent what I say.
No, Keisha, I think you got it, that folks were sending in public comment by email for much of the pandemic. Honestly, my hope was that we could do a call-in line. I've seen county council do a call-in line, and I thought that was one approach. We were not able to do that, so we did transition to in-person public comment, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you.
David, is there for the Board of Education meeting in August and then the upcoming ones in September, do you know if you all will continue to be in person? Has there been discussion of that, or has there been discussion of moving back to virtual?
No, I anticipate the Board of Ed meetings will be in person. Yeah, certainly August 4th, and my hope and anticipation is that we can be in person. I mean, I think in the same ways as school. I think that if we're wearing our masks, I think we can safely be in person.
Okay, so for our last agenda item, we just wanted to sort of have an open discussion. So as we mentioned earlier, there were some like articles that have gone around for folks to review and such over the past month or so. And so we just wanted to sort of give time for kind of open discussion, really about like any like article or event or current event that you're aware of that might have implications for our committee. And for folks who want to, you don't need to raise your hand. You can just sort of get off mute and start talking unless it gets thing, and then we can go back to that. Lola.
I have one more quick question. Sorry, Keisha. About the comments that you read at the beginning of the meeting. Do those ever get addressed, or we just sort of keep it for record keeping?
So the questions, and Sabrina, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the questions are going to be going to the Board of Education. And then what we typically do is, depending on, well, actually it's like we all have access to it from board docs, but we try to flag like if it's like a substantive comment that has implications or should be addressed by one of the subcommittees that is relevant to the work we're doing. Encourage like the subcommittees to take that into consideration as they're making recommendations and to sort of explore those topics. That's usually how we address the public comments.
Okay. And I do have them. I do save them as a matter of record in our notes. So they do go to the board, yes, but we also have them so that if we need to share them with particular subcommittees, we're able to do so and can refer back to what's been submitted to us from the community.
Right. And that's, I'm sorry, let me just comment a little bit more on that, that all public comments are posted on board docs. So they are available for anyone in the community, including the subgroups, to go and look at that public comment. So if you hear a public comment that is relevant to your subcommittee, then we are asking that that subcommittee go back to board docs to review that comment and consider some of the thoughts and the questions if you find that relevant. If there are questions posed within a contact to that email address, then those questions are then forwarded to the correct point of contact to be able to address the questions. And since we are a board advisory committee, they normally do go to the board.
And also, Keisha and Dawn, I just thought of this. I think we can also, for our new members, send the link of how to get to board docs and how to get to our meeting agenda and documents and things like that. I think that might be helpful too.
Mm-hmm. Anusha?
Yeah, I'm a new member, so I'm sorry if this is like something we've already gone over. But is FCPS thinking about adding critical race theory to the curriculum? Because I know there are some public comments on that, and if there is it okay? Like, is that something we have to discuss within our subcommittee? Like, that would be better to discuss then.
I think
I can start, and then if others have, is that all right, Keisha?
Yes, please do.
I mean, at this point, there's no proposal, at the board to adopt critical race theory. So it's not, yeah, I mean, at this point, it's not on the agenda. I know that, I think 2 of the public comments had to do with that, but it's really not on the agenda for FCPS at this time. Anusha, did that answer your question? I hope it did, but.
Yeah, it answered my question, but I'm just like kind of like now it's kind of like I'm wondering like what made them pose the question specifically to like the Racial Equity Committee about that, because I understand like for a lot of parents and stuff like that that live in the more rural areas where it's like they definitely have different views compared to like, because I live like close to downtown, like I go to TJ, so that's like a very different environment compared to areas I know like Thurmont and etc. Like nothing divisive, but they're very different areas and like climate of schools and like their school culture and stuff like that. So I just like, if that was something that was being posed by the board, that made sense to me, but I never heard anything about that from the board. So I'm just like wondering if that was posed as almost like a parent felt like we were like trying to impose something onto the students without like it being discussed first. Cause I know like the board is fairly open about stuff, but I thought that was posed to our committee specifically because I thought that was something that we were trying to impose without really having any public comment on it. So it was just like something they wanted to put in there for us to know.
No, I mean, I think you ask a great question. I think ultimately, right, critical race theory has been in a lot of newspaper articles and in a lot of media. And so I think, right, folks, community members are thinking about this, and then, right, if people have something to say about it, right, then they often will reach out to the Racial Equity Committee. But yeah, I mean, it's really not on the agenda for FCPS at this time. Yeah.
And Dr. Harris, do you have anything to add based on your knowledge?
Well, I certainly support what Mr. Bass said. I'm in constant daily conversation with the other departments, the curriculum department, school administration. Then, of course, in my department, we have the equity department, and there is no move to adopt critical race theory or to put that forward to the board. Now, while we say that, our resources that we use in instruction, as well as how we relate to one another, does value the unique identifiers of each and every student and each and every staff member. And so that's the work that we have done. That's the position that we continually take. We have over 44,000 students from all different backgrounds, over 6,000 staff with all different backgrounds, experiences, and we want to make sure that everyone is valued. And that's the platform that we use when we conduct our work in reviewing curricular materials, or if we are working with staff on curricular related matters or any other professional learning. So, and I think as Mr. Bass said, nationally, and then of course, locally, you hear so much on news media or in other platforms about critical race theory. And there are elements of matters of equity embedded within critical race theory. And so, sometimes folks will take matters of equity and equality and automatically assign those to matters of critical race theory, and that's not necessarily the case.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Any other questions or comments? And not just for that, but any like kind of current events anyone wants to discuss. Okay, well then, if not, then I will actually adjourn the meeting now. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thanks, bye-bye.